Hi, I'm Clint Emerson, retired Navy SEAL, founder of Escape the Wolf, a crisis management company. Today, we're going to talk about how to survive an active shooter. Unfortunately, there are active shooter scenarios going on almost daily in the United States. So here are some tips that will help you survive. There are 3 simple things you must do if an active shooter is in your vicinity: run, hide, or fight. These are not in any particular order. The situation and your environment determines which one you do. Let's talk about run. A lot of times we think just run for a door, run for an exit, run for a window. But the reality is you need to slow down for a second. You need to determine where the shots are coming from. And just because you see a herd of people run by does not necessarily mean they're running in the right direction. So there's some science to this. If I were to fire off a gun in your building, down the hallway and around a corner, you would probably think it's actually coming from the opposite direction. That's because sound waves and how they propagate through hallways, stairwells, and in tight spaces, it can make you think the bang sound came from the right, when in reality it came from the left. And this is why people inadvertently run towards gunfire. So stop for a second. Trust your eyes and question your ears in these situations. Don't just run. A big part of running is actually thinking it through ahead of time, knowing your routes. Whether you're at home, work, or your favorite coffee shop, think about where you would run all the time. That way, if shots are fired, you already know the route you're going to take, and all you have to do is execute it. When you do run, try and run in a zigzag pattern. This is really important if you find yourself in a big open area like a parking lot, or you're the only one running down a hallway and you know the shooter is right behind you. It forces the shooter to change windage, which is his movements left to right, and elevation, which is up and down. So if you're running sporadically and irregularly down the hallway, it makes it far more difficult for him to get any bullets accurately on you. It's human nature that if you see a herd of people go running by, you're gonna feel like you should join them. Don't. Take that opportunity to look, listen, and smell your environment. Know where the shooter is, listen to what's going on, and ensure that you're actually going to run the right direction. Plus, being part of the herd is exactly what the shooter is going to shoot at, a large body of people. Ideally, you're going to be part of a much smaller crew or alone so that you increase survivability by not being part of the bigger pack. When you run, think about running in terms of sprints, not a marathon. So you're going to run from cover to cover or from concealment to concealment. Now there's a difference between the two. Concealment is like hiding behind curtains. It takes me out of sight of the shooter's sight, but it doesn't stop bullets. So ideally, you choose cover over concealment, because cover takes you out of sight, but it also stops bullets. It could be a granite desktop in your conference room, or if you're out in a parking lot, it could be the engine end of the vehicle, because if you hide behind the trunk, bullets will zip right through it. So you want to identify things that stop bullets and then use those when you run. If you find yourself in a situation where you can't necessarily run or you can't exit the building all the way just yet and you have to hide in order to get out of sight, make sure you figure out your hiding locations ahead of time. We live in a very small pattern of life. We're either at home, we're at work, our favorite coffee shops, the gym, wherever. This gives you time now to figure out, okay, what are the good hiding spots? What gets me out of sight but is not a dead end? It's just as important to identify dead ends as it is to identify good hiding spots, because you want to avoid dead ends. Dead ends are like bathrooms, for example. If you go into a bathroom, there is nothing in there to barricade the door properly. And most bathrooms do not have another way to get out. So ideally, a good hiding spot allows you to barricade the doors and gives you an opportunity to escape. It could be a hallway that has multiple ways of egress and ingress. Whatever it is, just make sure your hiding spots give you other opportunities of escape. If you find yourself in a room and it's time to hide, make sure you barricade the door first. So the proper way of barricading a door is to stack stuff linear. You find the door, You place a table against it, and then a table behind that table, or another piece of furniture behind that piece of furniture. The idea is to stretch that chain of furniture from the door to the opposing wall. So now the opposing wall actually becomes the doorstop, and no one is going to get inside that room. Keep in mind, anytime you're around that doorway, it's dangerous. That's why it's called the fatal funnel. Bad guys like to shoot into doors and doorways. So when you barricade a door, do it quickly, and try and do it without putting yourself dead center in front of that door. Once the door is barricaded properly, immediately look for other exits or a way to get out of there. In the meantime, put your cell phone on silent. Shut out all the lights. Lock any other doors, windows, any other way in. Make sure those are barricaded as well. And then get quiet. Put yourself as low in the room or as high. There's been people who have survived these by getting on top of the refrigerator in a break room. You have to assume the shooter might shoot through doors and walls, so don't put your torso in the line of fire of any of those bullets. If you find yourself in a situation where you can't run, you can't hide, and you know the shooter is getting closer and closer and closer to your location, then your last resort is to fight. And when you fight, you have to fight for your life, meaning your level of violence has to be greater than your adversary. And when he's coming with a gun and you don't have one, it's a good idea to team up. Grab other people who are willing to fight and make a quick plan. And it can look something like this, where, hey, you're gonna go for the legs, I'm going for the gun. You have to get control of the gun and then get control of the body. And then ideally you separate the two. So one person is going for that gun. You're either grabbing it like a pull-up bar, a chin-up, or an over-under. But whatever you do, get a positive grip, positive control of that weapon, and then let gravity do the rest of the work. Just drop to the ground. It's either gonna strip the gun out of their hands, or they're gonna go to the ground with it. And then the second or third person is gonna take out the body. In the MMA world, in the fighting world, it's all about gaining control of the spine. And the best way to do that is gaining control of either the head or the hips. But in times of stress, it's much easier to tackle hips than it is to try and get a hold of the head. So one person gets positive control of the weapon, another person is taking out the hips, and then separate the two from one another. Once you've got that weapon, you can either use it against the bad guy, or you can use other improvised weapons in the room. But whatever you do, make sure you're fighting for your life. Keep in mind, when it's time to fight, your adrenaline is going to be through the roof, and it's very hard to control your fine motor skills. So make sure you're using big movements, big tackles, big grabs. Those are the things, those gross motor skills are gonna work, and they're gonna work really well for you. When you tackle a guy, you're probably gonna put him through the wall. You're gonna have strength and you're gonna have aggression that you've never had before. But just make sure it's controlled and you use it properly. And remember, on some of this, you only got one try, so make it count. When it's time to fight, don't forget about improvised weapons. It can be a fire extinguisher, hit him over the head, spray him in the face. You can grab any kind of cleaning product, spray him in the eyes. You can grab a pair of scissors, stab him in the face. Anything goes, and make sure whatever you do, you go 100% because it's either you or him. Remember, the fight is all about creating pain, disarmament, and then taking down the shooter. And once you do so, maintain distance, restrain the shooter if necessary, and wait for first responders to arrive. Remember to ensure that the shooter is neutralized before you start helping victims. You cannot let that guy continue to roam around or turn your back on him to help someone. Ensure he's neutralized, then help the victims. So remember, in the unlikely event you hear shots fired, run, hide, fight. These are not in any particular order. Your environment, the situation, and your personal capability will decide what you're going to do. By using this mantra, you will increase your odds of survival.